Hello and welcome to the Men of 1004 Thoughts podcast. Joined here today by Joe Burgett, only 15 minutes late this time. And I am your host, Lee Man. We got a bit of a different episode going on today, as you can see by the hype package I made today. Very proud of that.
He's very proud of it.
I'm very proud of it. I'm not gonna lie, I almost Icarus, and I'm glad I didn't.
You almost flew too close to the sun?
Oh yeah, like I did the one I sent y'all yesterday, and I was like, this could be better. I could do better. And then I started tinkering with it, and it got to a point I was like, oh no, like we're at the point of no return at this point. Like I got to either power through or throw it away. So
you almost flew too close to the sun with your wax wings.
Yeah. I mean, I don't fly.
If you're Icarus, can I be Daedalus?
Are you saying you want to be my daddy?
Yes, I do. Also, he's a great inventor. I think he's a really cool dude from.
It's fantastic. All right. Well, today we have a special guest, a good friend of ours, actually. Known her for years. She's fantastic, wonderful, and if I can work this properly, she was just recently named Female Free Agents Breakout Stars 2021 by Fightful.
That's an impressive thing to be on. I mean, to be honest, it's hard to reach some of these things when you're on like the top lists and whatnot. And the problem with doing that is when you're getting on them, sometimes people think, oh, it's so easy to get on these things because they're going to put anyone on them. They really don't. They have to find some of the best out there, especially Fightful, who's only going to look at the certain places because there's just so many independent companies out there.
Right. And as we have both always said, she is one of the best as far as I'm concerned. And you can fight me. But anyway, let's bring her on, the lovely and talented Nina.
Hey, guys. Hi. Thanks for having me. What a sweet intro. I'm like blushing.
No.
That's so sweet.
It's all true, though. Like, it's all true. We've been telling you this for years.
Aww.
So,
well,
I've
actually known you guys way before I even started my wrestling journey. So,
I know.
You guys have always been there.
Do you want to talk about how we actually met, though? Because it's about a decade ago. Do you know that? It's almost a decade.
A decade? Yeah. Am I that old? Thanks for inviting me.
We met and started doing podcasts together. In fact, we did them in 2013. I think was the first one we did together.
Wow, that was a long time ago. I think I was like 17 when I met you. I'm 25 now. We went at a Bleacher Report. We had a little community there.
There was a meetup with some of the guys over at BR for a long time. It came out to be where there was a chance to do a website together. And so those guys got together and put it together. Then I joined on with them after a while and did stuff with them. So it took a long time. But we started doing this thing where we're bringing other guys on. And then we found this community from BR that was just exploding. So why not bring someone on for this breakout tournament? And so it was a pretty good opportunity. And I think you, along with so many others, came on that we've been friends with ever since.
Yeah, it's great. We've never met in person, but, all these years back together. You always pulled me in, like when you had like openings for like writers, and I always appreciate that because now I'm a copywriter for a living, and I used all the stuff that I've written before for your website as like material to use on my portfolio and stuff like that, and super grateful.
We were always huge fans. We told you from like the very beginning. I think we said something about the idea. Like, I thought you were very talented with your writing, and I thought, okay, let's do it more we can know about her. I think, don't you know like 3 languages now?
Yeah, I do. I'm trilingual.
If I'm not mistaken, you went to a French high school.
I did. So from kindergarten all the way to high school, I went to the French school of Manila. I live in Manila, Philippines, so I know how to speak Tagalog fluently as well. Well, Filipino and English.
Speaks English?
Fair enough. I'm
Yeah.
not that good at it. So, see, I've always just kind of been there in the background, realistically. Like, y'all met on Bleacher Report, and then I was just there. I don't remember how I came into the picture, honestly. Like, I'm trying to remember. I don't. Like, it's been
almost a decade ago, apparently, so it's fine.
First off, he said 2013. That's 8 years. Stop adding time.
Almost.
Yeah, and also, Nina's talking about being 25. I turn 30 next month.
Nothing wrong with that.
Man.
Nothing wrong with that.
I'm 31.
Well, yeah, we know you're almost dead. That's not the point.
I'm a bitch. I know where you live. I will find you, and I will do nothing about it. That's what I'm going to do.
You've had 3 years to come to my house, and you haven't yet. I'm not afraid.
I don't want to go to that area. It's a very bad area. That's all I'm saying. It's in the middle of nowhere. I feel, look, like, if I go there, banjos start playing the moment I go into that area. I don't like it.
That's not untrue. Well, anyway, now that we've had plenty of time to catch up, I hate dual screening, but I also love it. But sometimes my mouse just like pisses off, and I don't know where it went. Anyway, hi.
Hello.
It's
Great,
been interesting. I'm not gonna lie. I was telling Joseph. Yeah. I was telling Joe, almost a mutual friend of ours.
He's a dick.
It's true. I was telling Joe when I was getting stuff together, I was going through old messages because I was trying to figure out like when we met because it's been just a long time and I'm old. And so I'm flicking through and I actually found a video that you sent us while you were training.
We had that, don't we?
Yeah, I remember being like a fresh like high school graduate, and since I was at the French school, it's like all my other friends that I grew up with, you know, left the Philippines, and I was like the only one left here. And it was like during that summer between high school and then like going to college, and so I had like all this free time, and that's when I discovered PWR, like the only Filipino wrestling promotion here, and it was so small. It was like barely anything back then. But I remember discovering it and I was like, holy shit, I want to do this. And I had no friends. I hadn't started college yet. All my friends went abroad. So I really like had only you guys pretty much like as a support system. Because I remember, we used to be so tight knit with like, you know, with the website and everything and the page. And so I remember just sending you guys videos because you guys are like my only friends who would like understand what I'm doing, you know?
Right. Which is important.
We've also been in the ring in the past and hurt ourselves a lot. So
you hurt yourself. I was fine.
Lee, you have actual chop marks on your chest on video. We have it.
That's not untrue, but that doesn't mean I was hurt.
He screamed like a girl.
We
have it on video.
I'm not going to deny that. But
I just really mean chops.
Chops do hurt.
You know what? I have no doubt.
Someone in our state that does them harder than anybody, and Lee was willing to take like 50 of them.
Willing is the word.
It's brave.
Hurt.
It's brave.
It's stupid.
Yeah, Lee is brave.
It's stupid.
Gotta give him credit for that.
I'll never deny they didn't hurt, but I'm also Irish, and I like the strongest gust of wind is going to make me bruise, so it doesn't matter. So
he also did a lot when he got home, so keep him to the Irish tradition.
I did. That's true. Yeah, Jameson too. So I had to keep it with the Irish whiskey.
Also, the same girl who did that to you drank your, I think it was a moonshine that you had gotten from Tennessee, because it's actually illegal to go in the United States across straight lines with
I
food.
smuggled this moonshine in.
Right.
And she came over to watch WrestleMania 30 because it was when Taker lost. And she was like, hey, can I have a drink? I was like, yeah, sure. And like an hour later, I just see the empty jar sitting on my counter.
It's about this large, too.
I was livid.
She drank it all by herself, too. Didn't even, like, offer it to anybody. Just, like, jugged it back.
Is she okay?
She was just...
I don't think so.
Like, she was as drunk as a person could be. Like, she was terrible. It was hilarious, but Lee was mad because he wanted to drink the moonshine, never got to drink.
Of course.
Wasn't funny to me, yeah. I hadn't even opened it yet. But, oh, God. It's been a long time, and we could sit here and go through stories for hours.
We do have, like, I know, like, from the messaging and stuff, we have pictures of her having all these bruises on her arms, on her legs.
Yeah.
She's got one massive bruise on her leg, and like this large. I was like, how'd you do that? I fell. Like, of course you fell. That's part of what the job is.
Right.
It was rough, especially back then. I didn't have like elbow pads or anything, so especially my elbows, like they would be really just so messed up.
Yes, I remember we'd be like, "How'd it go today?" And you would just be like, "I'm covered in ice. It's fine."
I remember when I was talking with a friend of mine who became Summer Rae on TV. Her name's Danielle Monet. And I was talking with her about the journey of that because she was brand new to wrestling when she entered the WWE. And her biggest thought pattern was, like, when I get there, what do I need to know? And she started asking me these questions. I said, I don't know what to expect, but I can tell you to invest in a good chiropractor, a lot of ice, a lot of heat, and, you know, do the best you can. Just don't take any, like, bad drugs or anything. You'll be fine. And she probably, I think she trained for maybe like a year or so before she made it to TV. But I got pictures of her similar to what you did with, where it was just bumps, bruises, and everything. And she was, you know, in your case, both of you were kind of small. And so she just happened to be taller than you. That was the only difference. So the idea of it hitting on these mats and continually doing that too, getting sick from being in the ring after all these bacteria infested people get in it. Like, there's so many things that people don't think about with wrestling training that is just beyond what anyone ever thinks of it. So, like, in your case, especially being in a smaller place, dealing with a lot of different stuff beyond that. I mean, Philippines deals with, like, what, tsunamis and various things like that, too. So, I mean, we don't deal with it here.
It's not.
Typhoons. Maybe not tsunamis.
We have hurricanes.
His T-name, I got a T part right. I feel pretty accomplished.
So, speaking of, like, your training, like, I know we know, like, the bits and pieces you've told us, which is a decent amount, but, like, what exactly was it like day to day? Like,
so over here, it's very different. Over here, when I trained in the Philippines, we trained once a week, and I mean, it was rough, especially at the beginning, because it's like, what am I getting myself into? But after that, you kind of get the hang of it. You learn to, like, work smarter and, like, not go home with a bunch of bruises and stuff like that. And you just get used to, you know, like, the workouts and stuff. You just get better at it. But then what really kicked my ass was training in California. I had to go, like, from once a week, like, very chill, to then training like 3 to 4 times a week. And it was intense. Like, the wrestling school that I went to over there just does not play. Like, it's very... I thought I had my shit together until I got my ass in that school, and I was like, oh, I don't know anything, and I am so out of shape and all that kind of stuff. And it was rough, but it was the same thing. It's like, it's really hard at first, and then once you keep doing it, you get the hang of it. It'll never be completely easy, right? Like, it'll always be difficult, but it becomes, like, less scary, less intimidating, less, you know, you just get the hang of it.
Right. Yeah. It's like me, I started seeing a personal trainer. I think we talked about it. And I am not in shape. And before you started training, like, you were still in shape regardless. So, like, for me, like, my first workout, called Joe. I was like, I can't sit down. This isn't an option.
He bitched about it for like 3 days.
I sure did. And I'm not ashamed. So
you know what? My first day of training in California, I actually no, it was like my second day of training. I was like, I can't do this. And I sat down and I never do that because I'm not really the type of person to quit. I'm usually, you know, like that girl who's like always first in line and like, you know, always. And so when I was in that spot of just like, for the first time ever, I thought to myself, oh my gosh, I think if I move another muscle, I'm going to pass out. And I just had to sit down and I was crying because like, yeah, I mean, you know, it was getting to me mentally. I was like, what is this? Like, why can't I do this? Am I not cut out for this and stuff like that? And it was really, really rough.
Right.
But afterwards, when I kept doing it like 3 times a week, it then became like 4 times a week and stuff. And I was not in that position as I was like a day one. You know, I was able to actually go through the entire training session without crying. And it's those little things, you know, it's like you're gonna get better and it's just like, you know, you're just gonna achieve like your goals very slowly.
Right. That's one thing I always say is like any progress is good progress. Even if it's like, hey, I lasted an extra minute. Good on me. So yeah, that's actually what I was gonna get to is like at what point, like, was there ever a point where you were just like, I don't know if this one's for me, which you answered the question right there. Because I would assume that not only like the physical part of it's going to be tough in of itself, but the mental side of it has got to be its own unique set of trials and tribulations.
Oh, for sure. I'm my biggest critic. Like if I, you know, don't look the part or if I'm not like performing as well as I would like to, it really gets to me. And I think that's a normal thing for everyone. I feel like,
you know, in your case, it's kind of like a competitive thing as well, which is a good thing to have. I mean, you don't want to be someone who just kind of accepts being mediocre. You know, you want to be great. So in order to be great, you got to keep kind of kicking your own ass to get to that point.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's healthy criticism of yourself, and then there's unhealthy criticism of yourself. And I think if you can get that balance, that's where you're going to have the biggest success. Because you're willing to accept what you're weak at and work on that without focusing in on the things that are kind of irrelevant in the moment.
Right. You forget too, like with Nina in this case, like she's been wanting to do this for so long. We've known her like I mentioned earlier, but nearly a decade, and all the time we've been talking to her about the idea of wrestling. This is all she ever wanted really to do. You know, you have a lot of other aspirations as well. Like I think at one point you were going to school for broadcasting, and there's so many other things you wanted to do. But at the same time, you know, your mindset was on that one goal. And I think that's a very admirable thing that she's doing it now. But for a long time, she didn't know if she could. I mean, the support system at home you mentioned was kind of a different situation as well. Like, tell us a little bit about the home issue you might have dealt with compared to what maybe someone else would have expected that you would have probably been experiencing.
Right. So I'm Asian. I have very strict Asian parents. It doesn't help that I'm a girl too. So the idea of me doing something as rough as pro wrestling, that was never gonna sit well with my family. Especially when I broke my collarbone in 2015 during training. So obviously that was something, I mean, like with the bruises and stuff, like I can hide that with makeup. If I needed to go to training every Sunday, I could always lie and say I'm going to my friend's house, you know, but coming home with a broken bone, I couldn't hide that because I was like, I need to go to the hospital.
That's surgery now.
So I couldn't hide it anymore at that point. And they knew, and they were so livid and so angry. They were like, you are not doing this ever again. And I did it again after recovering. I recovered in about like 4 months after my surgery, and then mentally it took me a while to really get in that headspace to come back again. But it was when I watched I think it was like WrestleMania 30. The one with where they introduced the women's title and they had like the triple threat. Yeah. I remember watching that, and that match, it was Charlotte versus Becky versus Sasha, and
So
that stole the show. And I was like looking at that, and it was on my birthday too, and I was like, that's what I want to do. Like, what am I doing here? Just like sitting here and like, fuck what my parents think.
The thing is, you're not the only person who saw it. There are many pictures all over the place, but one that I think is the best one, and the match thing occurred at WrestleMania 32 as well. But there's a little girl in the crowd watching the three of them in the ring, Becky, Sasha, and Charlotte, and she's sitting there just in awe like this watching them.
Yeah.
And to me, that was the greatest picture to show how women's wrestling had changed. I mean, at this point, it's kind of interesting that you're coming up now, because this is probably it is the best era for women's wrestling in history, and you're coming up in that era, meaning you can't just be 1990s good, 2000s good. You have to be today good, which is on another level.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hard to reach that. So tell us a little bit about how you're trying to get to the point of like, I'm not saying you got to be like Charlotte right now. It's hard to reach the level or Oscar, people like that, but you can be there one day. It's just a long time to get there for many people, especially because you're not in the WWE in the first place. I mean, you're on an independent circuit. So what are you doing to try and be to that level that you want to be at?
I think it starts with really falling in love with just the art of pro wrestling. I feel like whether you're guy or girl, you just really need to be so passionate and just look at it as like an art form. And I think once you have that, I mean, your motivation, your determination, your drive, like that'll all just follow you. Right? I've seen so many girls like come and go like at training, and guys too, who come in and they're like, oh, pro wrestling training, that's cool, I want to do it. Like, yeah, but like you can just tell like the passion and like like your will to just like watch wrestling all the time and like study it and like really get yourself in like that whole realm and that world. It's like it's not in everybody, and if it's not in you, I mean, tendency is they don't make it. They don't make it past training. They don't make it to a show. So I've seen that all too many times, and I feel like it just really needs to start there. Like if you look at like Sasha and Bailey, like all those the top dogs in women's wrestling right now, it's like that behind the scenes they are so obsessed with wrestling and they watch the indies and they really try to do different stuff. It's like it all stems like from the love of like the art form. I feel like in the 90s, I mean, a lot of them really did love wrestling, but a lot of them also just wanted to be models and like, but like nowadays I feel like women are really getting into it because they see some type of like beauty in it, and like with all like the different moves now and like the chain wrestling and like all the flips and stuff, like it's an art, it's a dance, like it's and people and women now feel like they want to learn that more, like as much as the guys do.
Right.
And forgive me for mentioning it this way, but I think it has to be said sort of like this. But like the women's wrestling for a long time, because of the WWE and how they organize it, they're the top dogs. So without them being invested in women's wrestling, it's not going to be that big a deal anywhere else. I mean, we know it became a big deal on the independent circuit for many years. People like Mischief were killing it on the indies for a long time.
Right.
And people like Sarah Del Rey, who of course is now doing stuff with WWE as a trainer, and they were doing great for a long time. But women's wrestling, it wasn't where it needed to be. But the moment this evolution happened in the WWE, the indies also exploded with so many great talented women. And they also started letting them wrestle like men, even though it sounds really weird to say that.
Yeah.
They didn't hold them back. They didn't say, oh, you got to pull your hair or you can't touch someone's face. Today, we're seeing girls kick other girls in the face, and I love that. Mm-hmm. Because it used to be so different, where stay away from everyone's face. It's a problem. You don't want to mess anything up. Becky Lynch is up there holding her hands up with a bloody nose and becoming a star. And that's the best thing to see today.
I think the best, like, most recent example for that was like Charlotte, how she channeled her inner Andrade, and she did the exact same stuff as like Andrade did in the ring, and like that just goes to show it's like we're on equal levels now. You know, it's like, okay, Andrade did that. He's a huge star and he's so talented. He's an absolute like great wrestler. But hey, Charlotte can do that too. And I think it's like that mindset of like, yeah, like whatever the boys can do, I can do it too. I think, yeah, women just nowadays, like female wrestlers put themselves in that position. Like we don't just study women's wrestling anymore, like how women are quote unquote supposed to act in the ring. It's like we take inspiration from like, you know, the men and like the male greats. Like it's not, we're just not in like this bubble anymore. And yeah, I mean, that's just kind of how I see it.
Right. And that's the thing, for the last several years, I would say that the women's matches, especially in WWE, I am critical of WWE on a lot of things. The one thing I can't be critical of is their women's division, because consistently,
absolutely.
Right.
My opinion, like WWE's like women roster, it's like you cannot find them in any other promotion. I mean, it's not to shit on like the indies or AEW or anything like that, but like, oh my gosh, the WWE women are untouchable.
Yeah, and they are.
That roster is just untouchable.
The thing is with WWE is that their roster in general, like men, women combined, they have the best roster on the planet. For some reason, they don't know how to use the men properly. I don't know if it's just that they don't have a choice with the women, or if just all the women like pull out all the stops at every given opportunity. But consistently, every pay-per-view, the women's match, regardless of what it is one of, if not the top match on the card. Me and Joe, Jesus Christ, I'll get to it eventually.
I'm upset when you compare me to a dick.
Me and Joe talked about it after WrestleMania. Bianca Belair versus Sasha. Crushed it.
That hair whip.
And first off, I love Charlotte, but the fact that Sasha is not considered the top of the food chain in WWE is a tragedy.
She's the best in the world right
Yes, without question.
That's not even a question.
Her and Becky for character, Sasha for just pure in-ring workability.
And that's something I think that Nina is very close related to in how she works in a ring with Sasha Banks. I think that's a very easy comparison between the two. You're not exactly her at this point, but dear God, if there's someone that comparison-wise, that's right there.
Oh my gosh!
To ability in the ring, like all these things are improving.
Yelling too much.
That's aspiration to be to, though. If you think about it.
No, absolutely, it's definitely an aspiration. Like the top four, like the 4 horsewomen of WWE. Those are like, they are so incredible in their own way. They're untouchable. And obviously, as a female wrestler in the indies, I want to be that, because they're just like the top of the food chain. Like, where else would you want to be as a female wrestler?
Right.
And like in terms of like performance too, like you just want to be as good as them. Like they're just so good.
Right. Exactly. This thing is like, I think all of that started with who I know is probably your favorite, Miss AJ Lee. I think that was kind of, I remember watching wrestling in general around that time. I would be so pissed off with how AJ was used in X, Y, or Z match, because it's like she's better than where she's at.
Right.
And I think she was the one who kind of put the spotlight on, we can do this better than them. and better than a lot of the guys were putting on at that time, especially character work.
She and Paige both did that, I think. Paige was right there at the same time frame.
That's what I was saying. When Paige came up, her and AJ couldn't be touched. And AJ's character work was second to none.
Oh, absolutely. Even to this day, I feel like nobody gave us entertainment during that era. Like, it's, but AJ Lee, it's like she was up there with the top stars, like having storylines with the top stars. And when you were watching Raw or like the pay-per-views, it's like you were waiting to see what was she gonna do, She was so like it's like, as much as I would like to see her in today's era of women's wrestling, I feel like this era wouldn't have even happened in the first place if she didn't do what she did during her time. Like, she really just stood out, like, back when women's wrestling was just freaking hopeless. Like, she just stood out. And I agree that, she could have probably had longer matches to really showcase what she can do in ring. But I mean, wrestling is, especially WWE, it's like, it's entertainment, and boy did she entertain, like, with like all the character work and the promos and stuff like that. So, I almost wouldn't change a thing.
Her run was huge. It brought those ratings in.
Exactly. That's I think that was my problem with it, is that she was so good as a character that I feel like her in-ring work, when she showed it off, it was always just that untapped well. And I think once Paige came up, you got to see that. Like, you got to see what WWE refused to let her do. And so at that point, I was like, okay, here we go. This is where it needs to be. And I think AJ will be remembered, should be remembered, as that generation's Lita or Trish, because she pretty much carried that division on her back for a long time.
Not pretty much, she did. That was
the only other person there with the in-ring ability, although her character was never great, was Natalya.
Yeah, it's fair.
You know what? A lot of people like to crap on Nikki Bella, but let me tell you, she is honestly one of the greats. And AJ has said this herself. Like, one of her favorite matches ever was actually her triple threat with Nikki Bella and Paige. Like, I feel like, Nikki Bella, a lot of people hate on her because, she's like girly, whatever. They like to, make fun of her for her relationship with Cena, whatever. But honestly, like, as a wrestler, like, looking at her in-ring work, she's actually so good. Like, the way she moves, like, it's so clean. It's like she's way better than her twin sister, let me tell you that. But like, yeah, it's like she's so, like, she can move and she's up there, and people hate on her so much, but she was, I think that was the case for all of them, right? Like, a lot of them did have like some in-ring talent that wasn't being showcased. But like, the character, like, it just wasn't there. Like, people just weren't connecting, right? And I feel like AJ really connected with people and the crowd, which is why, she had so much success.
Right. That's the thing. She got her teeth in and didn't let go. The only other person as entertaining as her on the card was her husband, realistically.
Who she didn't know was going to be her husband at that time.
No, but like, honest to God, you look back at it now and you're like, yeah, it makes sense. With Nikki and Brie both, I think, are talented in their own separate ways, but again, they were two of those people who were just not being used properly. Honest to God, I would put less of the blame on Nikki Bella and more of the blame on WWE, because they treated her like they treated Roman Reigns for the longest. Being like this, why don't you like this?
We want you to like this.
Instead of just letting her be her. And then once her fearless gimmick is what really kind of pushed her into that next gear of her career. Because again, she had character at that point. She didn't have character before that. She was just another girl on the roster.
There's a definite separation too between the two of them as well after they came back, where obviously Nikki's had a little bit of work done, but also she had a muscular point of her body that her sister just didn't have. And that muscular ability allowed her to do far more in the ring and some risky stuff too, which again, that probably is the reason why her career ended, is that, she has this thing that broke her neck essentially. But her move, her finishing move, was a move that no other female at that time was able to do. And it was a move that legitimately does hurt to take. I know it hurts when I took it. So it was one of those sort of things where when you fall like that, time and time again, 100, 200 nights a year, and you're still able to go out there and compete at a high level. Nikki's phenomenal in what she could do. And she was champion for about nearly a year, right at the year mark. I think she was right there on AJ's record. But like when you're in that point and you're having a champion and be on the road all the time and still do all these things and be just as good as you were then as you were now, I think her best match though probably was that match with Charlotte, where Charlotte beat her for the title. That was one of her last matches, I think, too, before she had to leave due to the injury. But that match to me was where we thought, okay, women's wrestling is here now. Like we all knew it was good from NXT, but no one talked about it on the main roster. And then Charlotte comes up, has the match with Nikki. It blew everyone's mind. Like, oh, women can wrestle? What? I didn't think we'd really. And that match, Nikki, I think we give the Bells a lot of shit, but that match to me was really what set the thing going forward for a long time.
And I'll tell you right now, people shit on it a lot too. Ronda versus Nikki was good. I'll fight people on it. That match was great. Like, a lot of people didn't think Nikki was going to be able to carry Ronda in that match. And not only did she carry her, it was phenomenal. So that is a testament
too. So
she had gotten better, yes, but that was also a testament to Nikki of being like, okay,
being the veteran, for sure.
I mean, when you're in the ring with someone, sometimes there's a leader, sometimes there's not. But typically speaking, there's at least one person, usually the veteran, that's going to call the match.
Yeah.
And the problem with it is, though, is sometimes that veteran isn't very good. But there are times the veteran allows the younger to do things. And in that match with Ronda and Nikki, they kind of share the load, which people don't get credit for that. It's hard to do when you're trying to share that mentality together, because you got to be like in sync with somebody to do that. Other than that, you just get someone to call the match the entire time. So, like, in your situation, though, Nina, like, how do you work with women in the ring on the independent circuit where there's so many varieties of women you can wrestle, from younger people to long-standing veterans?
Oh gosh, it's actually it's so different. Like the way I work over here in the Philippines and the way I worked during that one show I did in California, it's two different worlds. Like over here, I feel like we are, babied a lot, and we're very organized, and so we know who our opponent is like a month before the show, and we have like shows every month. And it's like, I have all this time to prepare with my opponent, and, we pop up a Google Docs and we start freaking writing the whole thing, like, and try to memorize it, which is honestly not what you're supposed to do, but we did it anyway, just because we wanted to give something great for the fans, we don't want to just, so we were often scared to like wing it. So we would do a lot of writing. Whereas when I went to California, I got to the venue and I didn't even know what the fuck I was gonna do. Like, I didn't know who I was facing. I didn't know. They were just like, you're on, bring your gear. And I'm just like, all right, I don't know anything. And I got there and I remember Taylor Hendricks, she told me that I was gonna have 2 matches that night. I was like, wow, I have never done that before. And it was extra pressure because I was already like in the car, like it was a 7-hour drive from SoCal to NorCal. And I was already like feeling so much pressure of like, oh my gosh, like I have nothing written. Like, I don't know, like, am I able to really wing a match, like, you know, all these thoughts. And then I go there and then they tell me I have to do it twice. So I'm like, what do you mean I gotta like just come up with 2 matches like in one night? This is overkill. So it was very different. It was a very different experience, but my first match was someone who was very, very new, and she just had graduated from wherever she graduated from. And so that one was a very different experience from, say, a veteran like Taylor Hendricks, who I faced later that night. Definitely my match with Grace Lee, the first woman I got to wrestle, it was very, I felt like I was the vet, even though I'm really not, but like I felt like I needed to kind of like guide her and like call the spots and stuff, and she was just so new, and there's nothing wrong with that, but yeah, and it was great. We ended up having a great afterwards I go backstage and I'm like, okay, now I have to write a whole brand new match with Taylor that's gonna happen like in 20 to 30 minutes from now. So I'm like sweating, I'm tired, but like here I am, I gotta do this again. So I'm like backstage, and Taylor was definitely like the vet here. Like she, and I told her, look, I'm new, I'm not used to this whole ad lib thing, so please like guide me. And she totally did. We wrote the match backstage. We did a lot of run throughs because that match was set to be a lot longer than the one I had before, and I had trouble memorizing the spots. Like she would tell me like, okay, like can you repeat the whole match for me? And I'd be like, I was just like blank, and then she's like, all right. Like, and then it was, and I told her, I was like, look, I am I have a memory of a goldfish, and I probably won't be able to memorize everything we just talked about just now because it's a lot. However, if you could, you know, be the vet that you are and call it in the ring, I promise I'm a good listener. So that's what happened. That's mostly what happened. Yeah. Yeah, I can listen.
I tell Joe all the time, I'm the same way. I have the memory of a goldfish. He could tell me something 10 minutes, I'll forget it. So same. I relate to that so hard. Like if someone was like, hey, I need you to remember to do this, I'll be like, no, it's not. Nah.
Yeah.
It takes a long time to get in the memorization of doing those sort of things. Like even in the matches for WWE, especially because they don't really know a lot of times what they're going to be doing. AEW has the same problem where they don't really know their opponents right away, so they have to call in the ring a lot. So that's some things that a lot of people don't think about when you're on the independent circuit. It's the same way with that way because you sometimes don't know who your opponent's going to be to get there, and it might be a great veteran like Taylor based on brand new, and you have to be able to adjust to anything.
Well, yeah, and that's
not even fair.
That's the thing is like sometimes trial by fire is the only way to go.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Like in wrestling, trial by fire is like the way to go. You will never know how to do anything unless you're just like pushed out there in front of an audience. Like in training, you know, we have our practice matches and stuff. But when you have your practice match, it's like you just don't feel it. You don't feel the energy of the crowd. You're not in your wrestling gear, so you're not feeling your character all too much. It's like the only way to really, really know how good you are is to just freaking get out there. So yeah, and I mean, I had no choice at that point. I was like, well, I have to do this. And it really is the correct way, right? Like if you wrestle in the United States, no one writes their matches unless you're like, you know, you're having your WrestleMania match or like a big pay-per-view match. You know what I mean? It's like you kind of just get to the venue and then you discuss it with your opponent then and there, which is really the way that you're supposed to do it as a wrestler. So, but I mean, that was the first time I did it. So it was very different for me. But afterwards, I was able to kind of like, I don't know, like afterwards, I felt great about myself. I was like, oh, that wasn't so bad. Like I can do it. Like I was too harsh on myself. I kept telling myself I couldn't do it, but I did, and it was fun. It wasn't that bad. So I took that and I brought it back with me to the Philippines. So my next matches after that, I tried not to write so much anymore, and I would get to the venue with my opponent, and I would just discuss it with them there. And my matches have been all right, and it's not as catastrophic as I thought it would be. So I'm like, all right, see, it's like, yeah, at first you're just like so consumed in anxiety and fear, but then you actually, again, like trial by fire, you just go and do it, and you're like, oh, it's not that bad.
Right, and that's like when I was putting that video package together, I watched, which I'd already seen all those matches anyway, but watching through them again, it was, you could tell like the older ones versus the newer ones, because your matches show just progression after progression after progression after progression, but you don't see that a lot with other people. Yeah. But that shows learning, that shows wisdom, that shows growing in general, and every match is going to be different, I'm sure, and every situation is going to be different. And I think sometimes writing the matches is probably a good idea, and sometimes you just gotta kind of feel it out and go with the flow. So with you wrestling now in the United States, and it seems like you had a good time, what are your future plans when it comes to that?
I had a blast in California, and I feel like I can be a better wrestler if I kept training at Santino Brothers, like the wrestling school in SoCal, just because they just kick my ass like no other. And I want to be able to keep doing that. I remember I was in California like 2 summers ago. That was the first time I ever went there. And that was, the first time I ever got a taste of like, training at that school. And I remember being there for like a month, and I came back home to the Philippines, and I was jacked and I was ripped. And I was like, wow, what did I even do? I barely worked out at the gym, barely. So I'm like, this is wrestling training. Like it's how much it just pushed me. And I feel like I need to be pushed in order to, really get somewhere. So I want to be in an environment where I'm pushed. So the United States is definitely just, if I want to, make it anywhere in wrestling, I feel like I need to be in the United States. So those are my plans.
I mean, according to Fightful, she does seem to be someone who they
have
on. So.
Taylor's
how did you find out about that happening? Like when and how?
The owner of Fightful just messaged my wrestling Facebook page and was like, "Hey Nina, you were part of this article that was written by Taylor Hendricks. You're featured. I was just letting you know, and if you want a digital copy of the magazine and read all about it, I'll be glad to give it to you." And so he did, and I was like shocked because I've never been part of a magazine before, and this is Fightful. This is like a kind of a big deal, and written by Taylor Hendricks too.
That's the important thing too. Like that much respect you get from her.
Yeah.
I know.
This ain't kind of a big deal either.
She's too nice to me. Like ever since we had that match together, I have received just nothing but praises from her. I think I was like the first guest, if I'm not mistaken, on her podcast as well. And it's just like, since then she would like message me. She's such a good like guide. Like she's just the best. And I remember just feeling so good about myself after the match that we had together, because it just felt so, like it was so thrilling, not really having everything written down and just like kind of, going with the flow and like especially like with character work. It's like it just like came so naturally, and it was awesome. We had a great match, and backstage, she really made sure I knew that it was a great match. Like it was so overwhelming. She was like, she even told me like, "Oh, this is the best match I've ever had in this promotion," and I'm just like, "What?" And yeah, I'm always so grateful. And I found out too that it's also like a print magazine, so people get to also buy it. Like, so I ordered like 2 because I was like, oh my gosh, I'm probably gonna frame one of them. And it's just such a big deal, It's like I mean, it's already a big deal to be part of any list whatsoever. But like a list with only 3 girls, like I thought it was gonna be a list of like 20 girls, or like 100, but no, it's like 3. Like out of all the women in the indies who are thriving at the moment, it's like you just had to choose me.
Yes.
And I'm just so grateful for that. I don't know, like there's no other words to describe it.
That's the thing too, Lee. Like we talked about this in the past, where we've kind of given her compliments and told her how good she is, but you and I aren't women's wrestlers.
I'm not shocked.
Theoretically speaking, not. That being said, we're not women's
not this week.
Yeah, that's next week. Taylor is, and one of the best out there. I mean, she's been all over the world and wrestled with so many people and so many great promotions. So a veteran like her giving Nina, this sort of like mark of greatness is pretty awesome to me.
Yeah. And that's the thing is like when I found out. By the way, you didn't tell us at all.
Didn't.
I found out from your Instagram.
Right. I mean, I'm not gonna like.
Yes, you tell us.
Yeah, but like when it comes to these things, like I don't know, like especially lately, like I don't like to boast about myself anymore. Like it's just I don't know.
At a certain point,
you never did.
Anymore.
Ever.
Well, yeah, I never really did, but it's just like, oh, I don't know. I like to keep things like low key because, especially for this, I mean, to this day, I feel like I don't deserve it. Like I haven't wrestled at all at like the past year or anything. I haven't if I told you that, I was working out 3 to 4 times a week and on a healthy diet and just working on my fitness, oh my gosh, I would be lying. It's like I have not done anything like during this pandemic. So to receive something like that, it's like I feel like I don't really, really, truly deserve it. So I like to just keep it low key. But I mean, yeah.
Well, I'll say that's bullshit because you do deserve it. At the end of the day, all she did was say what me and Joe have said for 10 years, which
he finally agreed. Yeah.
Like my thing is, I think it does. Like me and Joe can sit here and tell you how awesome and great and wonderful you are all the live long day, but I'm sure hearing it from not just someone you respect, but a colleague in general, it hits different. Yeah. And I think it's not kind of a big deal. That's a huge deal. And you do deserve it because you are better than you give yourself credit for sometimes.
And here's the thing I think people don't really understand too. I mean, because of the fact that we're in America, we don't get to see the Philippine wrestling at PWR. But you can see some of those matches. Mm-hmm. And my favorite match he's ever been part of was the one with Ralph, where they killed it. I mean, there are things that most of that match is in the opener that we put out there.
Dude, it was so good. I was like, well, that's going in.
The story of that whole thing, I think, was really what brought that together. So even if you're just kind of a new person to PWR at the time, you could really fall into that sort of thing. And it's so well produced, that match. Dear God, it's good. It's on a different par with any other organization out there with that event. I think the whole event was filmed that way. But like, this is perfectly done, perfectly directed. Every move was caught at the right place at the right time. I mean, I was so impressed with that from PWR because, again, you guys are smaller, lesser known, and yet that event it was one of those opportunities for that promotion to start kicking up and catching on fire with people around the world. And that match, that event, you were part of that. So
Yeah.
can you tell me a little bit about that match with Ralph, how it came together, and the story behind that people may not know from the behind the scenes side of it, as well as the on camera side of it?
All right. Well, before I get to that, I just do want to touch on PWR's production value. A lot of us in the Philippines are corporate slaves, and a lot of the wrestlers do work like in advertising and marketing and stuff like that. So we kind of like, it's like almost creating our own agency, and we were really able, like to get the right people, and just like we just knew what to do production wise to make something look great. I feel like what lacks in PWR definitely is, the proper training, because although we have such great wrestlers in our roster, it's one thing to be a great wrestler, it's a whole other to teach. And I feel like that's what's been lacking. So the talent may not always be up there, but production, no one in Southeast Asia can beat PWR. Let me tell you that. But yeah, moving forward to my match with Ralph. So Ralph Imabayashi is my best friend in real life, and that is the reason for all the chemistry that we had in that match. That match was actually the first match that I had like since my 2-year hiatus or something, because like I wasn't allowed to wrestle when I was in college and stuff, and that was like my first match back, and it couldn't have been with a better person. The thing is, like with Ralph and I, like we just have so much chemistry, and so like we created the storyline way before that, and it was like this whole arc that he was like in love with me, but then I was like with someone else, which was Kodo Hiro, and then they were gonna battle it out for the championship and all that kind of stuff, and it was just so funny and it was entertaining, and I had a lot of fun roasting him because that's just what I do on a daily basis anyway. So
It's a Monday.
I remember, it was just a regular day for me, except I had a mic. And yeah, that one time we had to do this.
Nina.
She froze on us, is what happened.
She froze.
It's either froze or we've got a bad connection.
I don't think both of us could have a bad connection.
That would be awkward, I think. Yeah.
Nina.
We can always get her back.
Yes.
We have magical abilities to do that too.
Do I?
We have the magical ability to break someone off and bring them back.
Yes, we do.
I think it's actually a very cool thing for us to do. In fact, I think we should be given some sort of like knighthood for this.
Yes, we will bring her back momentarily as soon as she comes back, and we'll finish that chat.
I really wanted to know the story behind this thing.
Of all the places, so I think she did it on purpose. Cliffhangers.
I think she did. I think she
come
did.
Back later.
I think there's like an Avengers Endgame situation there where she wanted to like leave us on a note to bring her back for another one in the future. Like that's what's happened here. She wants to get back for the next show, and so we're doing this as like a way to bring Blockbuster money into it. By the way, we didn't mention this yet, Lee. This is our first broadcast on YouTube as well as other.
Yes, platforms. It is. We could have gotten all that if someone was on time, but I mean, 15 minutes late, some things had to get cut. But yes, this is our first. This is our first broadcast on YouTube, Twitch, and on the Facebook page, Wrestling News Hub. I did something for you that I also forgot to do because you were late and I was running out of time. For me?
Oh, it is so pretty!
Yeah, it can run the whole show now.
we don't need to go the whole show because at that point it becomes.
I'm not saying it should. I'm not saying it should. I'm saying it could. And then also have follow me and Joe on Twitter. You follow me at punicorn_G_poop and Joe at twitter.com/JoeBurgett_WE.
I'm not gonna lie to you, Lee. The name is still so weird for you. I mean, it works perfectly for you, but it's weird.
It's wonderful. I love it because it's my gamer tag. It's I use it for everything. And just imagine for a moment me playing Call of Duty and someone getting pissed off. Like, who's this little kid, Punicorn Glitter Poop? And then you just hear my voice.
How's it going? That's going to like the trucker commercials. I am highly powered. I got a V8 engine, and I'm able to kill you.
Well,
to me, that doesn't make sense.
True. While we're waiting to get Nina back due to technical difficulties, it happens, especially when it's live.
I'm still upset because I want to know the story behind the Ralph thing. I love that match so much.
It's fantastic.
And it's one of her better matches. It's not the best match probably she's ever done. But more importantly to me, it's such a good match connected with such a good story. And I was hoping to get to that really close into our midway through. I got to the actual match, and I don't know the story yet.
Well, give her time. And also, again, I think it's to build drama, which is, you know what? Wrestling. That's wrestling for you. You know what? This was a DQ finish.
She's big timing us what she's doing. She's big timing us. She knows how to make us wait, and I think it's very important to give her credit for this. But at the same time, I'm very upset.
We're gonna wait. She knows we'll wait. But while we're waiting, let's get through some of this news to where we don't have to be up god awful late. First off, let's talk about some of the backstage releases. Edmund Burke is gone. Thank God. I hate that a man lost his job, but let's be completely honest. He was not good at that job.
And to be fair to the guy,
not.
He was
I'll say this. Well, no, not even this. I'll say this. I don't care who you are or how good you are. If you come from the outside, you're never going to get used to Vince McMahon screaming in your ear.
No, that's why they oftentimes today put Stephanie or Michael Cole on the desk instead. That way you don't have to hear Vince yelling there.
Right, exactly. And so I do feel bad for him, but in the same breath, I think it was the right call. He was not a good fit. It's a Mike Adamle situation all over again. Some people.
Mike Adamle's situation. Mike was terrible from the very beginning. Ivan did a great job for what he was able to do.
He was. I mean, we're going to need a bigger boat. That was kind of the death knell in his career.
Yeah, here's the thing. Ivan's such a good dude. He came from ESPN. He was the guy that actually released the information about the behind the scenes issues with ESPN with sexual harassment, abuse.
Yeah.
They basically got rid of him because of that. And everyone thought that was terrible because he deserved far better than that. And
no question.
I'm glad that we brought him in. He deserved that. But I think he would have been a better fit to be on the desk areas where Caleb Braxton and other people are. He would be great for that.
Yeah, and that's he was used very improperly. And at the end of the day, it's not necessarily his fault, but again, it's kind of irrelevant. He wasn't good in that position, thus I think the right call was to relieve him of those particular duties. Another quick story, I don't know if you saw it, but I don't really want to talk about it too long, to be 100% honest, but Velveteen Dream released his response to the allegations. Here it is, if you want to read through it real quick. But basically, he's saying that, none of it's true.
Well, to be fair to him, this is really what the whole thing about it was with not releasing him for so long. Because people are saying, well, I didn't release him well, this is why. I mean, you have to look at the fact that they're having to look into it. And it's hard to look into things with a lot of information there. And so that was the biggest problem with it all, is that there was just not really a lot of information. And so by having to do this for so long, you get two different sides of the story. You have to investigate them both if you're the WWE, and that takes a long time to do. So in their situation, at least in their eyes, WWE felt that he was too hot to keep around and decided to cut him. And I understand that.
Yeah, and that's true. Realistically, at the end of the day, I've looked thoroughly through all the allegations, his response, the not investigation WWE supposedly did. I'm sorry, I don't tell you can do an investigation and not contact anyone who made the allegations.
Well, keep in mind, with that situation, it's hard to really look at that because for them, they're going to give you their side of the story that you already know because they already put it out there for public to know. So there's no reason to contact them when they've already told you everything.
To a degree. Well, here's the thing. That's not necessarily true. It's just like interrogating any suspect of anything. You ask them the same question over and over enough, eventually they're going to mess up if they're lying. If they're telling the truth, the story's not going to change as much. So there was a benefit into talking to them.
That came in fact with Dreams with one of the guys that was involved with this, who changed the story several times. That was really the reason I think why so many
I have no doubt
story, at least, was the one that was false. The other one you may not know about.
Well, I'll put it to you this way. It's the Bill Cosby situation. If you take away 80% of those allegations and just say they lied, you still have an uncomfortable amount of people who probably aren't lying.
And that's not what I'm against here. I'm thinking the biggest thing about it is when you're doing an investigation or something, and then a person that that they say you didn't speak with, which in reality there were contacts with with law enforcement, people like that who did speak with them. That situation is different because anything you need to know is going to be there. But more importantly, it's two people. One of them very well probably is lying. The other is not, from what we know. And that one person is more than enough. Like you mentioned with the Cosby thing, it's a 80-20 thing. In this case, it's 50-50.
Right.
Where, two people, one may have lied, but that doesn't mean the other one lied. And so it's troubling either way. And I think that's why you cut a guy like that, because he may need to get some sort of help.
Also, yeah, and I will say, allegations aside, there's still plenty of evidence of his road rage incident. And at the end of the day, regardless of what he's being accused of, he did still send messages, proven messages, that are at best uncomfortable. So
especially to a person under.
I think, right, and that's the thing. Is like I think he should have been let go a long time ago, but again, neither here nor there.
We also need to mention too that
also
Tom Phillips was released as well today.
That's what I was about to bring up. I completely forgot we talked about that. But yeah, Tom Phillips. I don't have a banner for that because it just kind of happened right before we were going to do the show. But yeah, Tom Phillips released, which is stupid. He was
it depends on the situation. And that's the problem, is that when you're in his position, there have been issues backstage dating back before WrestleMania. And there have been issues with Tom Phillips over the years as well. This isn't just the first time. He's been around with the company for a decade. He's been around 10 years. So he's been great for what he's had to do, but he's had a lot of issues behind the scenes over the years. This year, there seemed to be something happening that really no one's wanting to talk about, and it's kind of the problem to me.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
I don't know what that is, and as a result of not knowing, I can't really comment on why. But if it's anything to do with a backstage problem when it comes to things like a management issue or certain people that are causing problems, or whatever, it could be sexual harassment. It could be a lot of things, and I don't want to put that on him.
Yeah.
Still,
well, I say with WWE, it could be something as bad as the Velveteen Dream situation, or as mundane and stupid as the Titus O'Neil situation. So it's kind of hard to. Paul London got released for smiling in a segment, so it's kind of hard to gauge what could have happened. Without them telling us.
As a result of this, too, Jimmy Smith is going to be taking over as the lead announcer on Raw, and everyone else is going to stay in place, so no one's moving.
I hate it.
Jimmy Smith, for those that don't know, had done a lot of stuff before this. Mostly with Bellator as an MMA commentator, and he's great at the commentator role. I don't think he's great when it comes to lead announcing because he's never had to do that. He's had someone that worked with him because he's very talented when it comes to knowing everything happening in the ring, which I think is really what Advan was missing. He had the ability to talk well and to lead a show,
Well,
because it's Sports Center allowed to do. But talk about that and doing play-by-play, I think Jimmy will do well with play-by-play because he knows his shit.
Who's on Raw right now? Because I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't know. I can't sit through a show.
Brazen and Saxon are as color commentators.
Okay, realistically, you should put Corey as color, or no, you should put Corey as lead. I'd put Saxton as color, I guess, and let Jimmy do play-by-play because that's where he's gonna be good at.
Well, he can lead.
And Corey's been doing it long.
It's really hard to learn the leading spot. The thing about it, and that's where Morrow, I think, had to get a better sort of feel things too, because Morrow now probably the best today on commentating.
What a waste.
His role was perfectly used, but the problem with it was though he couldn't lead a show because he was great at just doing the commentating stuff that he did in an independent scene with Strikeforce, with boxing.
Yeah,
so they brought Tom Phillips in as a side piece to do the leading spots of that. And the whole thing happened with Morrow and JBL, and that Morrow ended up leading. Then when he goes to NXT, he knew how to lead a show, and they didn't need a third guy to come in and do it. So that was great for him then. But that was sort of the thing that I think Jimmy Smith could very well be doing. I think he could very well be like Morrow with that play-by-play ability. But the leading part of it's going to be problematic because it's not something he's used to doing. You can learn it, it just takes time.
Right. And that's the thing. It's like, I think the reason I'm so bummed about Tom Phillips is because I loved him and Morrow together. They were fantastic. So Morrow was, I won't say Morrow was wasted, but God, did they jerk his chain around a lot.
Well, it wasn't just that.
Morrow deserved better than what he got.
He has problems with a mental disorder, with depression, things like that. And that's really the issue happening with JBL that caused him to leave.
That's what I'm saying. And you put him with one of the most notorious jackasses you've ever had in your company.
Well, the thing is, JBL is a jackass, but Michael Cole and JBL got along pretty well because JBL and Michael Cole understood each other's sense of humor and things like that, and Morrow wasn't used to that. So he
at
was
a certain point, is it a sense of humor, or is it just being a jackass?
Well, I mean, JBL is
I want to say more. Let me rephrase. I cannot stand John Layfield. I have heard and seen too much to like him as a human being. I think he's trash. So, honest to God, the best thing they did was take him off the announce table and let him go off into obscurity. Do I think JBL deserves to be in the Hall of Fame for what he did? Yes. Like, he was, and his career was Hall of Fame worthy. Do I ever want to see him on my TV again? No. Go away.
And the thing is, he was good at
the not wanted
spot.
Here.
He was good at the commentator spot, and I think that's why he was put on the desk tomorrow. But the issue is that I think what could have happened at that point is you don't keep JBL around after you know he had problems with Morrow, and there's clearly an issue with Morrow that there needs to be fixed on. Now Morrow eventually came back and had been doing great stuff on NXT, and they gave him guys like Nigel McGuinness to work with, who notoriously is one of being one of the nicest guys in the world. But more importantly, he knew how to work with guys like Morrow because he himself had also dealt with mental issues over the years. And that's important to know those two things, because when you come in and you don't know how to work with guys like that, that's a troubling issue. Guys like Michael Cole was a war correspondent, keep in mind. Cole wasn't just somebody they grabbed from an independent circuit somewhere. This guy literally was a war correspondent. So you don't just grab guys like that and bring them in and they don't know what to do. So Michael was great when he came in automatically. But he was used to working with those guys backstage for so long that when he finally got on the desk after doing interviews for so long, his graduation to that spot wasn't hard. Then JBL at the time was leaving from his character role, coming into the commentator role, and working with Michael then on SmackDown. And that really worked out really well for the relationship because he understood JBL already after working with him for years as just Bradshaw. And then, of course, as his character. Whereas Morrow, even though he may have known the guys, he didn't know them personally. And working with guys personally is different than saying, oh, I know this guy from TV, he should be easy to work with. So it's an issue like that even Graves has had to kind of go back a little bit with, because very much like JBL, he kind of does some slight bullying in a heel way on commentating, which is fine. But you have to know the difference between the commentating role, as a character at least, and the off-screen thing, which is JBL's problem that he did not know how to really turn off between those spots. where grades and sex and others know how to do. And that's important to understand because playing a character on TV is fine, and part of the character is yourself. And you kind of can be sucked in as a wrestler to being who you are all the time because when you're out and about with your family, people expect you to be this larger-than-life person they saw on TV every week, and that's a hard thing to pull back from. So a lot of guys become who they are on TV almost 24/7 because it's just who they are at that point. So that's an issue.
Right.
I think a lot of guys like JBL, especially old school guys like JBL, just did not know how to fall back from, and that's an issue with his personality. I think with proper therapy, I think he'd be fine, but it's one of those things that he'd have to be willing to change. I don't think he's willing to change.
Right, exactly. And just a little update. Nina's power went out because
that was why.
Reasons. So she probably will not be back on tonight. We will try to get her back on in the future.
I still do the Ralph story. I'm very upset by it now. I'm saying, I told you before.
I told you, man. What it was, it's like this is an in-game thing.
It's an in-game thing. It's a big time thing. She's big time. It's whatever. She understands drama. She's trying to.
I'll tell you right now. You say big timing. I say smart storytelling.
Not gonna lie, I'm not really mad at her for it. I get it.
Again, it just shows how far ahead in the game she actually is.
That's the situation to me that I think she's playing chess when we're playing checkers, and I don't like it very much because I was beating you before this whole game changed on me.
How could you beat me? You were 15 minutes late.
Because I don't need to be early or on time to beat you in checkers.
No, realistically,
king me. I'm the king.
Okay.
And I'm always red. Damn it, always red.
The king of nothing. Anyway,
I'm the king.
At the end of the day, it sucks that we had to cut her interview short due to reasons outside of anybody's control. We just appreciate her coming on at all.
Oh, yeah.
We absolutely adore her. We have for years, like we've said 100 times with this.
It's not an act. We really love her to death. I mean, she's been one of our good friends for so long. And because of the fact we've known her so long, it's been easy to follow her career for so long. And the problem with it is, though, because we are slightly biased, we do expect others to give us feedback on it, too. But she's Taylor Hendricks to tell her how good she is instead of us right now, which is important because Taylor is by no means a slouch. She's good at what she does. One of the best on the independent circuit today.
And that's the thing is we've had the conversation before, and I've had it with her too. Is like I see her at this point, like we've been friends for so long. I do see her as like almost family at this point. I see Nina. I keep wanting to call her by her real name. I'm trying really hard not to. I see her as a little.
I'm good with it now.
Yeah, I see her as a little sister. And I've told her this before, too. I love and adore her, and I want to see nothing but her succeed. And not only do I want to see that, I see it's going to happen. I remember, I was going to bring this up, but time never presented itself, I remember seeing her sending us those training tapes when she was first training back in whenever. Was it 15, 13?
I started kind of getting into it around 14, 15. 2014.
But I remember me and you having a ton of conversations like, this is different. Not the ability. Like, in-ring work is always going to progress. You start at 0, and you get to 100. But you could see it in her passion. You could see it in her just resolve. There was no one going to tell her no. Including like she touched on her family situation. It didn't matter.
I mean, Nicole, because I'm keeping that name now. I'm not calling her by her wrestling name anymore because I can't keep from calling her that now.
Dude, it was so hard.
I still want to call Nicole. I'm calling it now. This girl is 5 foot nothing, 100 and nothing soaking wet on a good day, but she's so damn talented that none of her sizing issues matter. Because she uses it as an advantage now, almost like Rey Mysterio does, or even AJ Lee, who she's close compared to. But the biggest thing I compare her to is Sasha Banks because we talked about the passion, which Sasha was well known for. But I saw some of the early Sasha tapes from her wrestling in Shimmer when she's really kind of getting going.
Yeah.
And Sasha had got lucky because she was cousins with Snoop Dogg, had connections to the industry that helped her a little more. So her progression came faster because she just had the access that no one had access to. finally she gets a training opportunity to work with WWE, and that gets her hired. And she becomes the Sasha Banks we know today. But Sasha started from this low spot with passion and a love for this whole thing that never moved off. And that situation is such a problem for a lot of people who love wrestling but can't do it. But Sasha wasn't going to be told no. It didn't matter who told her. It didn't matter who said her match sucked. It didn't matter what happened. And so I saw some of her early training stuff to see how good she was in the past. And then you see Nicole stuff. And I'm not really lying saying this because I think it's fair to say they both have issues with them because they're early training videos. But when you see the talent that connects someone, because there's things we talk about with like basketball or football where someone says this person is born to do this because of how good they are. Like LeBron James, Michael Jordan are born to be basketball players. Look at Michael when it comes to baseball. It sucked. He was born to be a basketball star. Not a baseball star, not a football star, basketball star. Mm-hmm. Tom Brady was born to be a football player. Peyton Manning was born to be. These people are born to do what they do and progressively get better as time goes on because they're one of the best of all time.
Right.
In the case of Nicole/Nina, her training videos starting out were incredibly good because you didn't expect it. You expected her to suck because all training videos suck. They have to because they're new. You're supposed to suck. They expect you to suck. You should suck. But she try and try and try to get something right. Wouldn't stop till she got it right. Then when she did, she tried it 15 more times, seemingly. That seemed to be what it was. And we talked about going to California from the Philippines. When you're training in Cali, especially with Santino Brothers, who are a pretty good training studio, you go there and get your ass kicked. And people think, oh, you got to get in the ring and wrestle, and that's going to be half it because you got to go eat right, be on like a high protein diet, go to the gym to be ripped. No, you get in the ring and you do those cardio materials. You start picking people up, moving around. That's exercise times 1,000, and you're doing it 3 times a week in her case, 4 times a week in her case. That's kick your ass.
The thing is putting in the work is one thing, and you have to have that passion to put in that kind of work. You're not going to subjugate yourself to that kind of rigorous bullshit week in and week out unless it's something you absolutely want to do. And so the question of her getting better physically in the ring and just getting the talent was never in question because you could see it in her eyes. But Nicole, she also just has it. Like, I hate to use that word because it's so cliche and used so often, but there's certain things you can't teach. There's certain things you can't learn. Some things just come naturally. Some things, like you said, you're just born to do it. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. That's the way you're supposed to go. And you get there. And unfortunately, some people ignore that, and some people dive headfirst into it.
But the potential she has, though, we've said for so many years is so big because, I mean, we talked about this earlier, but she knows 3 different languages, which I thought was always really cool. But the thing about her, too, that is beyond that is that she's very intelligent. Someone who's just so good at so many things. But the idea of it is, I thought for many years, I want to help her become this person. And one of the things that, I'm very good at doing is helping people learn how to talk really well. And the thing about it is when you're knowing how to do a promo, it's not as easy just to cut a promo on the fly or to be great. So I thought, okay, here's what we're going to do with Nicole. I'm going to force her to do podcasts with me and get her to talk about things on the fly about everything, no matter what it was. And so there are these podcasts. They're still on YouTube, I think. We can probably find them of us just talking about random shit for no reason. And the reason why I wanted to do that was I knew that if she got used to talking this way all the time and combined with her schooling, combined with her own intelligence, she'll be able to go do this in front of a crowd easy. Mm-hmm. Because she's got the ability to do it. It's just a matter of knowing how to communicate with people. And that situation is very hard. So I think
and that's great. Yeah, and not just that, like she has that personality that makes you want to see her succeed in general, which is going to just help her connect with any crowd she's in front of. And again, that's one of those things.
She's got that emotion in the ring too. That was one thing that got me with the
Well, here's the thing.
Too. That emotion just goes through your face.
Yeah. Watching the matches to do that promo. Oh, God. She still has no power and she's hot. Her AC's out. That sucks.
It's probably hot.
Yeah. But anyway, what I was saying was watching the matches to do that promo video. Some she was face at the beginning. Some she was heel. I say at the beginning, but at the time of that match, she was a face, and she's such a natural face because she's just a lovely human being. She's honest to God.
A full-hearted bitch though, what she wants to be.
Well, that's what. Hold on.
I love that about her.
Say, when you watch the matches of her as a face, you can't help but love her because she's lovable. And it's not an act. She's just a genuinely good-hearted person, and she radiates that across the ring. But when she needs you to hate her, she can make you hate her. Now, I couldn't stop laughing watching it, only because I know her so well that it's like, I know every ounce of this is going against her nature, and I love it. Because even though it goes against every ounce of her nature as a person, she crushes it.
Well, so she becomes her total opposite. She becomes anti-Nicole.
She's and that's the thing is like it's that's one of those things that I said you just can't teach. Some people cannot cut that part of them off. Like Cena, even though he tries to be a heel, he's John Cena at the end of the day. Enzo Amore, he's always going to be annoying. Face, heel, doesn't matter. He's going to grind your gears. And he makes that work to his advantage. Good for him.
Yeah.
Daniel Bryan, I don't give a crap what he does. He could walk out in the ring and punt a baby into the third row, and I'm going to ask what that baby did.
Yeah, because the baby's the problem at that point, clearly.
Right. Like, Daniel Bryan, you can't hate Daniel Bryan. He's just such a genuinely lovable human being that I'll never boo him. Even when
I asked this about when I was talking with Danielle about this years ago. I said, you're great at playing this heel character. She was great at playing heel. Even though she's one of the sweetest people you ever meet in your life, her whole thing was, even though she's gorgeous as hell, you think, okay, she's the prom queen, and that was her thing in high school. She was that kind of girl. But she really wasn't that type of girl you think about. And so she thinks about those girls who bullied her in high school. And everything that makes her believe they're the horrible, bitchy people, she wanted to kind of assume that as her, bring it in, and make that who she needs to be. And if need be, make herself annoying, comedic, whatever it has to be. But her job is to make herself, overall at least, become the bitch in the ring. And it's hard to do when you're such a good-hearted person who you don't really want to be that way. But it's more fun for people because you're playing a character. So a lot of people who wrestle love working heel because it goes against everything of who they are. And that's a kind of a good thing because it allows them to be different from who they are. And in wrestling, like I told you earlier about JBL, it's a situation where you become who you are and your character is you. You are your character. So when you can turn yourself on and off from being heel and face, it's easy to be that way because if you're naturally a face person, you're not having to be different if you're a face on TV. But if you're a heel on TV and a really genuinely a face person behind the scenes, it's so easy to turn off and turn on. So many people love playing characters because you don't have to be that character when you leave the industry behind or you leave to go back home to your family. Even if you're energized and ready to go, you're not going to be, who you are on TV. And so heel is so much better to play for those kind of girls like Nicole. And I think that's probably a way that will help her in the future where she may want to play that more because for her, it's easy to go a turn on, turn off situation where she can kind of separate herself from Nina and Nicole, which I think most people could not do in the industry for so many years because it had to be that character 24/7.
Right. Exactly. And that's at a certain point, your character and your personality is going to merge. You know what's funny? Like, this is going to just tie into a whole conversation we had. For some reason, we had an entire conversation about vampire sons or vampire stars, binary systems, quantum mechanics, and newer theories.
This is one of my fortes, and you saw a documentary today, I believe, and you wanted to talk.
hold on. You know how fascinated I am about that. Like in the last month, I've watched 22 documentaries just in May.
I told you, man. I'll give you my Discovery Plus thing and give you on a whole another mission.
I told you to. You haven't sent it to me yet, but now that here's the list. But like, it's funny that we had that conversation today because I think this is very relatable to it. Is like in the universe in physics, when you have a binary system can only exist for so long before they emerge. Regardless, it's always going to happen. They're always going to crash into each other or become a singular body. And I think when it comes to like wrestling, especially, personalities are that way too. You can only separate a character and your own personality so far before they're eventually just going to merge together. And you can be a ramped up version of yourself, like Daniel Bryan was during his Save the Earth gimmick.
It's so weird. He was the heel, but he was right.
The WWE has a tendency to make the person. Like, here's the thing: WWE has a tendency to make the guy making sense the heel. Like Muhammad Hassan.
I like that. Even with conflict we see with what we saw with Killmonger and stuff and various things that you want a guy.
Well, no, it's not just that. It's too. Yeah, well, it's not just that. It's like, go back to Muhammad Hassan. He was good. Every promo he cut, you're like, fair. And then, like, somebody would come out and be like, "Hi, you're a foreigner," and punch him in the face, and you're like, "That's not nice."
That's America,
right? And it's one of those things like WWE has a really bad habit of doing that.
Yeah, but they're not the only ones. We've seen it happening with tons of other companies too, beyond them. So it's not just their issue, but it is an issue that happens wrestling overall, and that's something that I think we have to really get better at when it comes to storytelling.
Yeah,
especially
I think the idea of you're different should not be what makes you a bad person.
I did like your comparison of the binary thing, where I think you can only be tied to me for so long before you just are going to explode. And the reason that's important is that when you have these binary systems together in the universe and they're that close, gravitationally speaking, you can be far away from each other and you can be fine. And you may not even have two suns in your system because the planet may not see that because you're so far away, but you're close, but you're not far. So you're light years away from each other. You're not going to be close. But the moment where you have two things together and there could be almost a merging situation, that's where I think the universe has trouble because in that situation, a supernova happens. And all those planets there.
Yeah. And that's the thing is like let's look at from that concept from the wrestling perspective of look at someone like Chris Jericho. When he was wearing the suit and the tie and arguably his best gimmick he's ever done, that was such a polar opposite of who he was as a person. But
it's still a total opposite of who he is.
Huh?
It's still a total opposite of who he is.
Right, and that's the thing is but eventually he had to gradually merge back into the what was it, Painmaker? Eventually he got back to that, and then he did the list thing, which again is more Jericho than people lead you to believe.
But it was different enough, though.
Gradually he moved back into right, and that's the thing is what it is that he is taking parts of himself, parts of who he is as a person, ramping up those parts, but turning down other parts to the point where he can be that kind of ass that he has to be to get that character across. But at the same time, you Jericho would say that. Like, I could see him doing that. As some people, it's just like.
For so long, though, Jericho was evolved with his characters where he said this in the past in interviews, said if once people start liking something, I'm going to stop doing it if I'm playing heel because I don't want them to cheer me.
Yes.
I thought the list was great, but unless I'm playing face, I can't do the list because people love it too much for me to do as a heel. And to be honest, the list was made, in his case, to be an asshole. But it got over because fans are fans and they're going to love that shit.
Well, here's the thing. Jericho can get over. He got over looking on him. That man can get anything over.
He got over a clip with list on. I mean, that tells you how good he is.
Yeah. But that comes back to the greatest of all time. I am the best in the world at what I do. That's real. Like, that is real. He truly thinks he is, because he is, as far as I'm concerned.
He may not be the best going day at the time.
Cannot think of another.
No one touched him.
Like, when we're talking overall, like, we're talking about overall, even now, he's still one of the best characters on TV.
Yeah, characters, definitely, yeah.
So, and that's the thing, is like, so it's always a part of him. But bringing the story back to where it originated, I think Nicole is Nina. Yeah, it's hard. Is that way too?
Stick with the name.
It's so difficult. I'm gonna keep trying though.
Yeah, I already stopped. I'm
good. She's the same way. She's the same way of. And again, me and you have the pleasure of hindsight. I've seen her get hot. I've seen her get mad. I've seen her blow up. I've seen her cuss. I've seen her scream. I've seen her want to beat the piss out of somebody. So,
yeah, and it's funny that she get mad. And I'm just saying,
I know. Oh man, well that's it. Like, when she gets mad, she gets bad. She gets big mad. It takes a lot, but when she gets there, oh boy. But the thing is like, she can tap into that when she's a heel. She can tap into that vibrato that she naturally has. But then, like, when she's a face, she just has to be herself, and she's like, everyone in that crowd's gonna love her. So
I think that's hard to do though. Like, in the ring, when you're working as a heel and a face, the way you work in the ring with your facials is very different. Because in the ring as a heel, you want people to hate you. So even though you're going to be down and out at times, normally what you do as a character is, if as a heel, you would just spit at your opponent or flick off the crowd or whatever you got to do to get them to hate you, even though you're down and out.
Run away.
You want them to hate you. But run away. But as a face, you want them to see your passion, but also see the sorrow. Like, with John Gargano is probably the best in the world at this. His faces are just absolutely on the button perfect. His matches with Tommaso, with Andrade, look at him, you'll see his face, how he looks like he's destroyed, but he comes back from that. Like, those things to me, and Sasha's greatest too. That's something that I think Nicole does so well in the Ralph match, where she shows that in that match how she's playing face, and her facials made you want to cheer for her.
Right.
That's important.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is like, exactly, because you can micro expressions are really big too. Some people just can't tap into those micro expressions, and some people can. And if you can, oh boy, are you going to make people think that you're an absolute ass. Randy Orton is really good at the micro expression. Maybe it's because he's just naturally an ass. Who's to say? But to your point, good with facial expression. Yeah, well, from what I understand, he's a lovely person. But as far as facial expressions, you say Johnny Gargano is the best. I would say him or Darby.
Darby's great.
Darby is really good at getting you to feel like, oh, he's dead.
I think, Darby's good at that. The sorrow spots. What I mean by that is, when you're down and out,
sorrow, pain,
and you're beaten up, you want people to see your pain. Gargano, Darby, both are great at that. I think Sasha Banks is fantastic at her facials.
Yeah, one thing all three of them are good at, and I see it all the time, and I appreciate it. And I never know I appreciate it until I think back on the match or I watch it again. They are all really good at one spot as far as like facial expressions are concerned, and that is the calculating. Like, they actually they make you really believe like they're trying to think of how they can hurt this person this way. Or what's my next move? How can I keep this person down? They're really good at expressing that through their facial expressions and their body language in general. As to where some people will just kind of telegraph what they're going to do, and it's more of just getting from point A to point B to point C to point D. Them three are really good at making it seem organic.
that's a really hard thing to deal with, I think, with a lot of new wrestlers where they're so new to everything, where it's telegraphed. You can see everything coming a mile away because they're setting up early to do them. Whereas, like, I think the best way to talk about this is like if you're shooting a gun for the first time, you're very new to shooting a gun, you're going to be very weird about it. But the moment you've done it 1,000 times, the more control you feel you have over your gun that you work with, the longer many people think that you're with it. You now know that gun better than anybody. You now know how it feels. You know how it cocks back. You know how it shoots. You know the pressure it gets off. You know everything about it. So you expect everything. So you can work within that to get everything to be exactly where we want it to go because you know that gun well. And wrestling is the same mentality. The longer you work in the ring, the better you'll get. And the most important thing about it is, though, telegraphing is annoying as shit. Wrestling fans hate that. So when you watch a match that's 1,000% telegraphed, you know it's telegraphed because you know they talked about it probably behind the scenes for 5 minutes and didn't know what they were doing. Yeah. Independent wrestling has that problem.
Exactly.
And you'll see this sometimes with matches that even when Nina's are the matches where you can tell when they're telegraphed, you can tell what they're doing next. And that's understandable because they're early matches. But you'll see a match like she did with Ralph, for example, where you didn't see anything coming until it happened. And then she did something smart too, where they do the fake spots, where you expect one thing to happen and they trick you over to go to something else. And that is brilliantly done, where you're expecting them to be not very good because of their level. Or Nina coming back from her 2-year hiatus. Oh, she's not that great right now. This is all things are going to be telegraphed. Nobody. Oh, that was like that. That was weird. But that's what you need to see.
Speaking of that 2-year hiatus, that's another thing I was going to get on to her about. That's another thing she didn't tell us about.
Well, I knew about that. We've known about that for a little while because she took time off.
What I'm talking about is when she broke her collarbone. We didn't find out until after the surgery.
We knew the day of her surgery because she sent us a picture.
Yeah,
and told us. No, she showed us her collarbone, her fucked up collarbone. We see this thing in an X-ray. And then we see it under like the bandaging, the exact same day that
Madam.
done.
I was like, Madam, how dare you? But no, we at the end of the day, it was we cannot thank her enough for coming on and doing the show at all. It's what 10-11 a.m. over there at this point.
It's around 12-hour differences, so it's around 10. It's nearly 10 a.m. for them,
give or take. So I know when before the show started, when we were waiting on somebody, we were talking in the waiting room, and she had said she had like just woken up, and she was like, her exact words were, "If I knew Joe was going to be late, I could have made coffee." And then I didn't hear from you after 3 texts, and I was like, "Go get coffee." And she was like, "Are you sure?" And I was like, "We'll wait at this point."
I couldn't get to him in time. They weren't like 5 minutes apart. They were like literally 2 seconds apart.
BS. You may have gotten them a couple seconds apart. That may. Okay, well that's not my fault. We were waiting for about 10 minutes. That's not true. We were actually waiting about 15 minutes. But again, I understand. Life happens. Life happens. Just like with her losing power. She was very apologetic, and I told her, life happens. Nothing you can do about it. We'll get her on again.
Well, at this point now, though, because of that situation, she owes us now, and I believe because she owes us, that means we get back in the future.
She said the same thing, and I was like, "You don't owe us anything. Like, we just appreciate you coming on. But if you want to come back on the show, if you want to come back on the show, I'm not going to stop you." Honest to God, she's one of those people. She could call me 10 minutes before the show and say, "I want to do the show," and I'll throw away everything and start from scratch because she's just a lovely person to talk to. She's got that good energy. You just kind of want to be around. You want to. Like I said, she just radiates good feelings.
And she had this thing with Taylor where she's not understanding why Taylor Hendricks wants to talk with her or be on a podcast. Like, why do you want to talk? Like, because of you being who you are, that's why she loves you so much, which I can understand why at this point. But it's one of those things where, like, we've known it for years. It's not shocking Taylor knows it now.
That's like when I saw when I saw that she was named one of the breakout stars, I was not surprised. Like, not 1 ounce of me was like, "What? Her? No." It was like, that makes sense. Like, because
we've been waiting
again,
like why there's not evidence out.
This isn't news to me or you. Like I said, this is nothing we didn't know. So, like, she's talking about how sweet Taylor is to us. Well, yeah, like you're good energy to be around. You're a good person. Everyone loves you. Accept that reality. But again, we absolutely adore her. We will have her on again soon. Maybe next week. Maybe the week after that. Don't know. We'll see what schedules look like. In the future.
If we go Avengers Endgame, we gotta wait for another, I think, year at this point, right?
1 year, yes. We have to wait 1 year.
Exactly 1 year.
Can you wait a year to hear the rest of that Ralphie story?
No, I want to hear it today. So I'm gonna probably have to pick her brain today about it. Because I told you I think I told you beforehand. I don't know if I mentioned it to you. It's like I always love that match, but more importantly, I like the story going into it, and I thought that was her best story arc and match she's ever done. We want to see more of her matches on YouTube and places like that. So hopefully we'll see them and time goes on this year soon as everyone gets back into the ring around the world. Due to the COVID situation, a lot of wrestlers didn't work this year in the ring, and Nicole is one of them.
Right.
I mean, it's especially in her promotion being the only one in the country.
It's been tough on a lot of people. Just the pandemic in general. A lot of people not working. A lot of people not working out. I'm one of the few people who decided to get in shape when nothing was open. Reasons, I've been done to being fat for 29 years. I figured, why not during a pandemic?
It's fair.
So, but no, I understand that it's tough on a lot of people. It's going to be a lot of knocking off rust for a lot of people. But she's one of those people I don't worry about. I have no worries at all that she's not going to just get back in the ring and absolutely crush it every single time she does, especially once she gets over here and gets settled.
It's a thing where I think she has to get back into it and get into this ring shape, as they call it again, where that ring rust is real. Like when you're not in it for a long time, you make a mistake, you have trouble. And that's a situation that a lot of wrestlers struggle with, especially people coming back after a long hiatus. But in her case, she's keeping in that mode where she's not exactly out of shape. I mean, she's still great shape now. She's just not in the ring every day. Now you get back in there and you get yourself.
Let's be honest. There's a difference in being in shape and having cardio.
Yes, like for me,
you can have the nicest physique and get wrecked.
Yeah, my thing is I've always had good cardio, but I don't have the 6-pack ab thing going on. So a vast difference between cardio and good looking, body here. So
here's the thing. I'm an anomaly. I'm an anomaly. I don't know if you know what that is.
What now?
I got fat man strength. So I am really strong once. You get one out of me. You need me to lift something. 100%. 100%. Like, you need me to lift something really heavy? I got you. Put it down. Hey, you need me to lift it again? Find someone else. You use yours today. My cardio is atrocious. I get winded getting out of bed. So that's something I'm trying to work on.
Not out of bed, but you know what I mean.
Well, you know what's funny? Like, I get winded a lot, but it's not because of this. Like, this is obviously a contributing factor. My sinuses are terrible. Like, you of all people know this.
You can see
it's not that I'm winded. I know. It's not that I'm winded. It's that I can't breathe. So, this is the best I've been in like 3 months. I know. I'm going to make an appointment.
As you anyway, you take pressure off of your chest and many things that can cause breathing issues too. So that's also a factor.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, that's what I was saying. Like, this is a contributing factor, but it isn't the only one. I can lose all this weight, and I'm still going to be huffing and puffing because here is screwed too.
But if you blow the house down, then no one's going to care.
This is true. Well, sir, we're going on 2 hours, which is our longest show. But it honestly got a breeze by talking to her. Again, we want to thank Nina for coming on the show at all. Yeah, we want to thank her for coming on the show at all. She didn't have to. She kind of did, but she didn't.
Our very first guest.
We talked about it. When we were going over people who we wanted to try to get on. We have a few friends in the sphere, so we talked about it. But it could not. I think we agreed that it had to be her. There was nobody else.
Well, we wanted her because
she was head of the pack. Well, we have so many questions. We have so many stories. And again, she's just an absolute delight to be around. So there was really no competition. Second place was about 3 laps behind. Even though we love the second person we were considering, just not even close. But again, we want to thank her. Go follow her on Instagram. It's Nina Wrestling. Go over there, show her some love, all that good stuff. Or on Facebook, I think you just search Nina. I think she's one of the first people who pop up. If not,
we have her on the Wrestling News Hub page. We have her page as a page, so you can click on it there.
Yeah, you can click on it there. Go follow her there. Go send her love. She deserves it, and best to get on the bandwagon before she's at WrestleMania. So
we just want tickets for WrestleMania when she goes there. So we've been saying for years.
Yeah.
The moment WrestleMania,
or All Out. All Out too. I'll take All Out too.
I don't care where she ends up. I just want tickets to go to the event for free.
Honestly,
I think it's a fair thing.
I'll be honest with you. If it were me, if I was fantasy booking, if I had the power, I would want her to go to AEW because
more opportunities.
Not only more opportunities, but she could be one of the building blocks of that company. Like, you know what I mean? Like, not just
in the past too. We
yes,
we've got pictures with Rio on her Instagram if you want to see it. But like, she's
you don't have to go to Instagram, sir. Bam.
Oh, good. See, he's got me already.
Yes. So yeah, she's worked with Rio in the past. I did not. I uploaded several pictures just in case we talked about these subjects. Did not use one.
Bring them all up, by the way. Bring them all because we didn't get to use them during the show. So bring them up. That's Toro Hero.
Another great picture. Another great picture.
It's a full screen there.
Being her badass self, and then being her badass self.
There are some you can't show though.
Not that I can't, I won't.
I wouldn't mind showing them because she was willingly putting them out there on Instagram.
Well, yeah, but that's her business. Like, that's her business. She was putting them out. I know.
You don't like it because she's our little sister at this point, and it feels weird.
Yep, it's very uncomfortable.
Though if adult entertainment has taught us anything, it's okay.
Dude, come here.
I said, if adult entertainment has taught us anything, it's okay. I think it's a great place to be.
How did you make it more uncomfortable?
Because it's so easy for me to do. I'm good at this job. I told you.
But anyway, we're gonna end the show here. Again, go follow her on Instagram, Nina Wrestling. Go follow her. You can go through the Wrestling News Hub page, and just send her love, send her praise. She deserves it. She's a wonderful person, and we could not thank her more for coming on. Any last words?
Yes. Yeah. You can follow myself on Twitter at JoeBurgett_WE, and you can follow this guy over here at this weird Pinacorn G poop name. It's stupid, but still. Below, right there.
Here's the thing. I'm really mad at Twitter. The full name is Punicorn Glitter Poop. By the way, have you ever met Punicorn Glitter Poop?
I haven't, Lee.
You know there's a real one, right? Like, you know that name didn't just fall out of the fucking sky.
Yes, Lee, you mentioned this.
He's right here. He stays on my shelf beside my desk.
Yes, I know.
My sister found this. I'm filming the forum. My sister found this in a free bin somewhere. I don't remember where. And she brought it home and she was like, look how weird this is. And I don't know why I wanted it, but I'm glad I took it. Unicorn.
This is going to be our Bebo.
I had so much fun scaring my nieces with this thing that I was like, well, it's fine now.
3 adorable nieces that you're scaring with that. I don't like it.
Oh, McKinley especially. Like she had all that go to hell energy. But
I figured Riley would have that more than anyone else, to be honest.
Riley loved it.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Let's be honest.
Yeah.
She's chaotic.
She's the one you got to keep an eye on.
But Riley has that chaotic neutral energy that I absolutely adore. Speaking of, before we leave, interesting story, weird story. I posted it on Twitter the other day, and people have been having questions.
Okay.
This is not wrestling related, so if anybody wants to go, you can go. But JoJo Siwa.
Yeah.
I think I'm a fan now.
I just kind of started knowing who she was like a month ago.
Me too. Like, here's the thing.
I feel bad because she's been very popular, and I've been missing out on that.
I don't feel bad. I'm not her demographic.
No, but we should have heard about her by now.
I've heard of her. I've heard the name. I have 3 nieces. Of course I've heard her name.
See, I don't have that niece energy. I have a nephew who can watch her.
Like, I knew who she was, like, adjacent. But, again, I'm not her demographic. So, she's not someone I sought out. But there's a YouTuber I follow who happens to be really good friends with JoJo. And she was on her YouTube page one day. And I'm a fan, again, not because of her products, not because of her music, not because of her brand, whatever it is. Could not care less. More power to her. God bless. She's absolutely crushing it. I think she has her face on more things than SpongeBob at this point. But she was sitting there during the episode just playing with matches and just watching them burn. And like,
people doesn't want to watch the world burn, Lance.
Man, and like she was sitting there, she was like, "Watch this," and she lit it and started like shouting off Harry Potter spells. And you know me, I absolute gravitate towards just chaotic neutral energy. Not someone who's going to actively destroy the world, but someone who would probably go, "Ha, look at that."
But you could with that person. That's the important part.
Right. You're not going to be happy if you see someone fall down, but you are going to chuckle as you help them up. Like, you're going to laugh at them, but you're going to help them to their feet. So, yeah, like, just that personality, that energy, I'm a fan of. Haven't listened to a single one of her songs. Never will, I guess. But
I think the best thing now, though, Smosh has a video of them. I think Courtney is her name that plays the JoJo character in this.
Courtney Miller, yeah.
They abduct her, kidnap her, and she has basically makes them fall in love and love her so much as the story progresses. Where at the end of it all, there's a situation where Damien's character is talking with Shane's character, and Damien's talking with JoJo in this case, and she's saying to him, "All right, you got to start loving yourself. You got to start, feeling like you deserve things." And Damien tells Shane, "You know what, Shane? I think I deserve a raise in this partnership. This isn't a partnership. What are you talking about? I feel it is my time to leave this established gang." And then the whole thing is funny. But the thing about it is the character of JoJo, people give her shit for so long, but the person is amazing, so you can't really hate her.
Right. That's the thing. Is like
everything about her is built on trying to yourself and make her love.
That's another thing. Is like just like any story I've ever heard about JoJo is just that she's a sweetheart. So again, all the praise in the world to her. Keep it up. Keep controlling the world at this point. But okay, I just wanted to tell that little anecdote. And the last thing is, if anybody's watching is a fan of gaming stuff, we will be launching a gaming channel with hopefully lists and a podcast as well on it in the near future. I just want to go ahead and announce it. That way I have to do it because I'm really bad at backing out of things. So
yeah, the idea of it is that we're going to expand this particular page on YouTube to expand the lists, and then we'll also be doing things with the gaming one on the side of that as well. So those will probably be coming after a little bit of time. They take time to put them together.
Right, exactly. It's Joe will not be one of the co-hosts on the gaming podcast, unfortunately.
I'll be a guest. That
You'll
helps.
be a guest, but the co-host that I am currently talking to is much prettier than you. So
Look, Lee, I told you before, and I'll tell you now. I'm okay with sex appeal being chosen over myself.
Oh yeah, 100%, like, all the time.
I get it.
Every thumbnail is going to be Samus in a bikini. But no, we're going to try to start doing lists on this channel as well. I'm going to try to possibly stream from the Twitch from time to time as well, be it games or whatever. When 2K22 comes out, we will most likely stream that on this Twitch and be disappointed, I'm sure.
Well, I want it to be better than 2K20, and I think it has to be better.
It can't be worse.
When it does come out, we always called it 2K Day when we played it every year. We streamed it every year.
You know what's funny, though? We didn't... Yeah, you know what's funny? We didn't do it for 2K20. We cursed it. We cursed that game.
We didn't do it for that one, not because of that. We both got the game, I think, but we both hated it.
And it was so bad. Well, the thing is, like, we actually planned on doing it because we couldn't do it the day it came out, which we usually did. Yeah. So we were like, let's do it this weekend. We had a whole plan together, and we both sat down the night it came out, played it just individually. And I remember you texted me, and you were like, what do you think of the game? And I was like, I stopped playing after 30 minutes. It was broken. It was just a broken mess.
I had trouble getting past the way the characters looked. Like Macho Man Randy Savage was like a homeless man.
Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing. I was trying to play the Four Horsemen Showcase, and the game kept crashing. I would be playing the Natalya Charlotte match, and I would just get a fatal error every time. And so then I was like, well, screw it. Okay, bugs, whatever. It's day one. So I went to play the story mode, which was trash. That was the stupidest thing in the world.
The story mode was such a small thing that they added.
I hated that particular
one. It wasn't good. And they've had better stories before. And there were some written by Paul Heyman.
Oh, yeah.
And others over the years. I don't know why they didn't think about the one this year. That year, at least.
It was, first off, I appreciated the idea. But then it just went into a whole, what the hell? Samoa Joe gets a bionic arm? Like,
yeah, it went crazy, man. It was absolutely insane.
It was so bad. They tried to jump the shark, which they tried to tie it in with the WWE Originals thing, which was stupid in of itself. WWE Originals is a great concept by itself if you made that a game, which we saw with Battlegrounds. Which Battlegrounds is fun, but it's
an arcade kind of game. It's built to be almost like wrestling was years ago kind of game.
Yes, but here's the problem with it, and again, it's like this is WWE has this tendency to give us just enough to not absolutely hate something, but they never give us everything. And Battlegrounds is the perfect example of that. It is a fun arcade game that has no depth.
It's meant to be a beat 'em up, is what it is.
Right, but the thing is like I played it and I enjoyed the hell out of it for a solid 4 days. I have not touched it since because I don't have to.
It reminds me of the old Tekken games where they had this situation that they didn't know what to do with it after the beat 'em up part of it was out of the way. Like, they had no idea how to do the story, so they started adding crazy stuff to them just to put them in there.
Tekken, you always had tournaments you could do to try to get better, but the Battlegrounds didn't even have that. So
they end up adding in stuff like Tekken Tag and things like over the years where it was fine. They just didn't have stories, so they had to basically make a story on a side mission that just didn't make any sense. They put it into an arcade mode similar to what we saw with X-Men in arcade mode years ago, and just didn't make any sense. Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat has stories, so they connected to people better than Tekken ever did. And same thing with Soul Calibur, never had a story, so people just fell away from them a little bit. And even when Tekken came out, the newest one, and Soul Calibur as well, yet again, same problem. Didn't have a story. Where Mortal Kombat exploded with their new story, And
yeah,
that Street Fighter up to a point did the same. So things like that are problematic for a lot of gamers who really just want a good game. And I think that Battlegrounds is a game that kids are going to love, but it's not going to do well for us.
And that's the thing is like, there's a lot of good wrestling games in the pipeline right now. So WWE is really going to have to get the lead out of their asses.
Well, I think it's just 2K Sports.
Well, I know that's what I'm saying. It's like the thing is like they have been the dominant game. That's not even true. They've been the only wrestling game for so long that it comes down to what we talked about earlier about Adobe and Intel. They just have gotten lazy because they didn't have to. They didn't have to try.
We talked about this on the podcast.
Yeah. Well, we and you discussed
off air. Yeah.
But you have Wrestling Revolution coming out, or I'm sorry, the Wrestling Code.
Yeah, it's been in development
for at least
4 or 5 years now.
Yeah, but it's looking great. You have the AEW game coming out, which is looking great. And there's like 5
as well.
Yeah, there's like 4 or 5 other ones coming out in the next 3 years. So WWE is gonna, or 2K is gonna have to do something because what they've been doing has been shite.
Well, I mean, we know this is the same company that owns the Grand Theft Auto series, owns the Red Dead series. They know what they're doing as a company. 2K Interactive or Take-Two Interactive. The issue is though is that they just seemingly gravitate toward going to their big titles.
Screw all that,
and that's it.
Yeah, but say screw all that. Look at NBA.
So and they put together stories in the past. Like we saw this happening with their own standalone game that was a war game that we played. You and I both love that they made, and they're also in the Mafia series. So they've done this as PK for storytelling, and they know what to do. They just don't seemingly know how to do it with wrestling.
Right, and another thing is like another thing 2K had a problem with is messing with things that aren't.
Spec Ops: The Line. That's what I was thinking of.
Oh yeah. Oh god, that game broke me. But no. Take-Two 2K, they have a bad tendency of messing with things that aren't broken. Like the control system from 2019 was great to whatever abomination they tried to create for 2K20. Oh my god, it's bad.
I mean, Ukes was the team that was doing all the software things behind the scenes, right? They left, brand new people come in, and so everything changed.
I'm okay with that. Ukes does not have a monopoly on how the controls work. That's what I mean by
the company's making it. They're making it specifically to fit their style, what they want to do, and that's what they did. I don't mind the controls. I just didn't like them compared to
they were bad. The thing is, like, controls are irrelevant to who creates a game. The controls are plug and play. I want to run. You program it to triangle. Whatever it is. So there's no reason they changed it. The reason they changed it is they wanted to get as far away from Ukes as possible for ego or whatever, and it was bad. So they have to figure something out. But
Ukes
anyway,
is also the team that's going to be behind making the AEW game as well. So that's
they brought in the original creator of No Mercy to be the game lead. So which is
what he was doing so.
Arguably one of the greatest wrestling games of all time. I still play No Mercy when I can. I have it back.
I haven't played it in years, man.
I have it on N64. I have Warzone on N64 and PlayStation. I have I just recently found NWO Revenge. That's the newest one of my collection.
I have my WCW versus NWO Thunder PS1 game.
Yeah, I have it over there.
It's an old in the 90s. It was like their best game for a long time. I used to have the W game though. That was a long time ago though.
My gaming collection is fast. But anyway, we're gonna get out of here. But just again, keep an eye out on the gaming channel coming.
We're looking at doing the first list within the next couple of months. Probably within June, we'll have.
I'm shooting for a little farther than that, just to be conservative.
It's easier to put them out. A quicker situation that way.
We're going to try to get a bunch of them done to where we're not behind. But I'm shooting for mid-July to early August.
Depends on who's making
my time frame.
And which particular videos, too.
So, and then it takes some time getting the podcast situated and a time frame for that, because I do work, unfortunately.
As they all do.
So yeah, definitely keep an eye on that if you're a gaming fan. And the wrestling YouTube channel, the Men of 1,004 Thoughts YouTube channel, go follow that, because hopefully by June-ish we're going to start trying to do at least 3 lists a week. But that depends on if we have the time.
2 to 3 is the main goal. 2 is probably what we start out as. It's much easier to do 2 a week because we do a Monday, Sunday, something like that.
We're going to try to convince some friends to do narration so we don't have to.
Exactly, because that allows us to save money and time.
Also, I'm going to be the one editing all this, and I don't want to.
I'll do some of it for you.
Luckily, I hate my job, and I can just do it there.
You also have a very easy job to do.
Also true. Anyway, we thank all of you for stopping by, coming in. We were not able to get to comments tonight. It's been a hectic show. So we apologize for that.
I'll try to respond as many as I can in the hub page.
Yeah, he will do it off air. Like I said, with having Nina on, and then the technical malfunctions and time being a little wonky tonight, we're just not gonna have time. So we thank you. We appreciate all y'all, and again, thank you to Nina or Nicole for coming on. We love you, and we appreciate it. So we will see all y'all later. Goodbye.